Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I do not have any coffee today. I know, so strange, but that's because it's about 6 p.m. in the evening and I have a big thing of water and I'm munching on some cantaloupe. So it sounds like I'm being super healthy, but let's not talk about all the food that I did have this week, but that's okay. We are diving into a book today that I really like. It felt a little nostalgic for me, and I think the era that it's written about. So we'll dive into that in a second. But it's called The Executioners 3 by Susan Dennard, and it is expected publication of August 26th, 2025. I have quite a few books due on August 26th, so over this weekend, I do plan on probably getting through about three of them. I know at least two of them are under 200 pages, so I should be able to finish those probably in a single day together, and then I'll probably be able to knock out another one on Sunday. But we are diving into Executioners 3, which has a little bit of a horror thriller vibe, definitely YA with some supernatural going on, but spooky in the Scooby-Doo sort of way. I don't want to say it's campy, but it does kind of give me teen slasher vibes. There is somebody who gets beheaded. There is somebody who gets hanged. So I'm just saying it's not as PG as all that. But from New York Times bestselling author Susan Dennard comes The Executioners 3, a mystery filled with rivalry, romance, best friends, and a gruesome curse that dates back centuries. Freddie Geller didn't mean to get half the rival high school arrested. She simply heard shrieks coming from the woods, so she called the cops like any good human would do. How was she supposed to know it was just kids partying? Except the next day, a body is found, and while the local sheriff might call it a suicide, Freddie's instincts tell her otherwise. So, like the aspiring sleuth and true X-Files aficionado she is, Freddie sets out to prove there is a murderer at large. So, this is kind of set in what seems to be the late 90s, and the reason that feels very familiar to me is because she seems to be either a senior in high school in 1990, or that's what it feels like. I think she's a senior in 1990, which means I would have been a junior at that time. So, because I would have been a senior in the year 2000, like graduating in 2000. There's also like tons of references to NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. She is very all about NSYNC, the rival. Well, I don't want to say the rival like school, but there is one particular guy, Theo, who she kind of spies doing the dance for I Want It That Way by Backstreet Boys. So all of that very near and dear to my heart. I was definitely a boy band girl growing up. So the fact that Freddie had a really big crush on Lance. There is a specific keychain between her and her friend, and apparently the Lance keychain brings really good luck. So she wants to borrow it for like 2 weeks to get some just good vibes. Well, she actually gives the keychain back because things are going a little too well for Freddie. So let's just start off the story with that. This is why, like, this overall setting is why I say Scooby-Doo-esque vibe, but I guess you could also kind of think of maybe like Scream or something like that. Like, there are moments in the OG Scream movie that are campy and are kind of funny, silly, but it is considered a horror thriller. And I think you could potentially put this into that category. I'm trying to think of, like, for me, it kind of gave me, because Freddie is kind of doing a lot of her investigation solo. I guess she's not really doing the Scooby-Doo thing. But Freddie, at least when we first meet her in the book, her and her best friend don't really go out that frequently. Her best friend is a type of girl who never misses school, has pretty much had perfect attendance for like the past 8 years, and is on track to like get some accolades or what have you. Freddie, she's not a bad student by any stretch of the imagination, but I wouldn't call her popular. Well, one particular night while she's at home, she hears what she hears is shrieking in the woods. And she kind of freaks out. She's like, "What? What is going on? What is this?" And so she just calls the cops. Well, turns out that the local rival high school was the ones who were having a underage drinking, pretty much like bonfire thing on the lakeshore, and half of the popular kids over there get arrested. Well, when she goes to her school the next day, she is really touted as a hero. And she gets to join what's called like the prank squad. And then like the school president and like this guy she's been crushing on since like forever. They're all part of this prank squad. And the guy that she's been crushing on for forever, he's noticing her. He's like, "Hey, okay, hey." And I think his name is Kyle. Well, I I really liked this book like so much. Like there was so much in it that I really enjoyed, because she's like, "Oh yeah, now I'm like going out with Kyle, like, or well, maybe not going out, but like talking to him, like gonna go ride in his Jeep." And it's so funny. Here's the funny thing. Is like I did have a super big crush on this one particular guy for like ever. Probably still do if I ever ran across him. But anyway, he drove a Jeep in high school as well. So he was kind of shaping up quite nicely to be this particular guy for me. Now, do I think I have any sleuthy business? Nah, probably not. I don't think that is really my cup of tea. I'm definitely more like the researcher behind the scenes. So when she goes to the library and when she goes to like these archives and starts looking through microfiche, that's what I probably would have been doing. I would not have been interning with the sheriff's office, doing ride-alongs or what have you. But it is, things go odd pretty much from the get-go, because Theo is on his way to that party, and he swerves to miss some raccoons in the street, goes off the road, and like kind of messes up his little Honda Civic, which I tell you, everybody in high school during like the 90s, I swear, even one of my best friends, she drove a Honda Civic, or it was either the Honda Civic or Toyota Camry. You could get one or the other for about $5,000 or less. But he, like, it kind of starts with him experiencing hearing a bell in the woods where there's no really a bell, smelling something that smells really bad, and getting this sense that someone is watching him or someone is coming for him or something like that. He gets this feeling. And so, well, then Freddie experiences that, like, not in the same exact place, but at a different moment. But after the first incident of hearing the bell, after Theo hears that bell, he doesn't run across it, but Freddie and her best friend Divya, I think it's Divya, they are like, Freddie feels like she kind of has this really good gut instinct, and I wouldn't call it like a supernatural gut instinct, but definitely has like a pretty good gut instinct, to the point that other people trust when Freddie's gut is telling her something. So she has to follow it, and she ends up running across a body hanging in the woods. And so good thing is, like, her best friend didn't really see it, so maybe there's not the trauma there, but she saw the shoes hanging, and so she's maybe a little bit traumatized, but she really didn't see the whole thing. So she's trying to kind of play it off that she's fine. And, you know, but things start to go from there, because then there's another party, another little lakeshore party for this particular other school, rival school. And that's when Theo, I think it's Theo, runs across a body that's been decapitated. And I really always want to joke about, like, there's a movie called 13 Ghosts. It's got like Matthew Lillard in it and Tony Shalhoub and Shannon Elizabeth. Anyway, it's very like late 90s, early 2000s, but loved that movie too. And there's this little boy in there, he says decapitated. And so every time I want to say decapitated, I want to say it like he does in that movie, which is decapitated. But anyway, the book just gets better and better from there. However, there is almost an equal amount of school shenanigans rivalry to the mystery horror-esque part. I would say there's equal amounts, which in my personal opinion, I kind of wish there was more horror thriller aspect. Give me a little bit more of the Scream slasher vibes and a little bit less of this school rivalry where we're just doing pranking and putting crickets in like the libraries and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm trying to turn my tablet back on because it's got notes and I kind of would like to see them. But and then we have another part where it is, okay, so remember, I told you that the guy that she has been crushing on for like a couple of years now has really started to noticing her. And then we bring in Theo, because Theo's, of course, like, okay, she makes so many references to Romeo and Juliet and him being the Montague to her Capulet. The Claire Danes, Leonardo DiCaprio, like, Romeo and Juliet was really big at the time, but it is such a bad interpretation of Romeo and Juliet. Anyway, she makes so many references to that because he is definitely the Romeo to her Juliet. And I'm like, does that mean y'all both die in the end? Like, what's going to happen? But anyway, so that is my, like, I give it 4.25 stars. I really, like, I enjoyed it, and I was kind of riveted, to the very end, finding out what happened. Yes, there's some supernatural elements in my personal opinion, and I think you would agree too, that there are definitely some supernatural elements afoot here. And there is potentially a big baddie as well. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but is there kind of a cute little budding romance between a Romeo and a Juliet? Absolutely. What happens to Kyle? Maybe you need to find out. Is there a play that Romeo and Juliet need to kiss in? Yes, perhaps. So there's a lot of different elements that really made this book kind of fun for me, but it also was very intriguing with the kind of mystery that's in the background, that's based on the town's history a little bit, some of its founding, some of the lore, all that sort of stuff. So all of that really does culminate into this final product, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. As someone else had mentioned, they said if you enjoy thrillers with a nostalgic twist, this may be something you need to pick up. And I would agree with that, because I didn't know that it was going to have that nostalgic twist. Sorry, little Leo's in my lap right now, so he was fussing before I even got started today, so he got a little haircut. I was trying to make him a little more comfortable. But I'm trying to think. They definitely make reference to, Tear It Up My Heart, I Want It That Way. Of course, the dances. I definitely had learned the dances at one point in my life. I will be completely honest. Now, was I a Backstreet Boys or an NSYNC fan? I was both. I did not feel that the rivalry was necessary because I went and saw both of them in concert. And I got to see Britney open for NSYNC. I got to see Mandy Moore open for the Backstreet Boys. Who else did I get to see? There was a band called Bewitched. There was BB Mac. I feel like there might have been a couple others as well. But Anyway, this book definitely has some nostalgia when it comes to bringing up things from the late 90s that certainly hit me right in the spot where I was that girl. From the magnet mirrors in the lockers to all different kinds of stuff like that. I wish I could have seen some of the like fashion choices, because then I would have really known, cuz I feel like the fashion choices, they come around about every 20 years. So everything I'm seeing in the store right now reminds me of stuff that I wore about that time. And it's like, man, if I had just held on to my wardrobe, like, it could have been reused, but man, I am so glad I didn't. I am so glad I didn't. That stuff needed to go. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. I really had a ton of fun with this, and I really highly recommend it. But it is, again, I want to make sure you understand, it is more of a YA kind of horror. So it's not going to be something that's going to be overtly just super grotesque. There's no real body horror that at least I remember. There is a description of disemboweling. So if that makes you a little queasy, then just be aware that that's in there. And other than that, I I really liked this book. But I'm going to go ahead and leave this here and let you guys decide if this is something up your alley. I think it should be. I really do. I think it should be. I think it's a good fall read too. Now, even though it was kind of slated, like themed in the, I want to say, like, again, it was like February of 99 is when I'm picturing all this happening. And just because, like, that would just fit perfectly. And I want to say, like, even in one of the other reviews that I saw on a different page, that it said the 90s. And I'm like, no. This is definitely like 98, 99. And I want to say in the book it does mention like 99 or something like that. But I will talk to you guys later, and I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one.